Welcome back to the E1 Combat channel. Today we're actually going to be breaking down a whole lot of aspects of boxing. As you guys could tell, right next to me, we actually have Oscar. This isn't the normal face that you guys actually see on this channel. So Lewis is actually on vacation. He's taking a little bit more of a hiatus just for the mere fact that it was his birthday this past weekend. So for these upcoming videos, Oscar is actually going to take his place. And we're going to be analyzing a bunch of little aspects of boxing. And for today, we're actually going to be going into more detail on the converted stance. We actually made a video a couple of months ago where we talked about the converted southpaw stance, and you guys had a good reaction to it. There was some good reviews and you guys wanted me to break down that video even further. So today we're just going to do exactly that, and we're going to be getting more into depth about converted stance and pretty much like the tactics and the technical stuff behind it. When we last broke down the converted stance, we talked about, first of all, a trade-off. So if you guys are actually in the converted stance, there's going to be a bit of a trade-off. Since your most dominant hand is actually going to be in front of you, that pretty much means that the hand that you're leading with will be a little bit more faster, a little bit more reactive to movement. So you're pretty much going to have a very, very fast jab and a very sharp and fast hook. And for the most part, there's going to be the trade-off that since your weaker hand is actually on your rear side, it's going to be kind of difficult, or it may be difficult depending on your strengths. And of course, you know, some people have certain skills that actually could factor in. It would be a little bit more difficult to actually land with power your cross hand. So that's pretty much going to be the trade-off. Second of all, there's going to be a little bit more of a difficulty actually implementing certain techniques or tactics throughout a bout, especially if you become a one-handed fighter. Since the hand that's right in front of you is your dominant hand, that's the hand that you mostly are going to be thinking about throwing, and you might even forget about throwing your cross. And another thing that might be a little bit more difficult for you guys to do is actually transition from one martial art to another, because like we mentioned, especially using, you know, those traditional examples of boxing and wrestling. In wrestling, of course, you're kind of taught to lead with your lead hand, especially when you're getting into position. And with boxing, of course, you're leading with the weaker side. That way you actually get some leverage when you guys are actually throwing your cross with your dominant hand. So pretty much that's going to be a little bit more difficult to transition between both, but of course it's doable. It's possible to actually learn the whole concept of MMA using these two different disciplines. So don't worry about that, and pretty much we're just going to get started and show you guys different techniques and examples when you guys are actually standing in the converted stance. First of all, we're talking about the converted stance. Okay, so like I mentioned before, in this case, we're going to pretend that Oscar is a left-hand dominant person. In this case, since he's a left-hand dominant person, we're going to convert him, we're going to put him in the orthodox stance. So he's going to stand in the orthodox stance, and I'm going to stand in the orthodox stance. Alright guys, so think about it. If most of your life, like I mentioned before, you're just doing stuff with your left hand, then of course the hand that you're always going to be throwing is the left hand. Throw it? Well, yeah, all he's going to do is be throwing the left hand. Throw it again. Left hand, left hand, left hand. Okay, so it's going to be very hard for him to have that mind muscle connection with his right hand, to throw that right hand. Alright, so it's going to be very difficult for him to throw that right hand, or sometimes he might not even throw it at all. So the thing that I would have to always worry about is, of course, the left hand, right? So left hand or a left hook. Alright, so that's the punch that I'm always going to have to kind of be aware, especially if I know that he is a fighter that's not really going to let go of that right hand. If I know he's not going to let go of that right hand, then of course, me being a very intelligent fighter, of course I'm going to move towards that right hand. If you know that he's not really great with his cross, or he doesn't really utilize it that much, then of course you could time it well enough, alright? And you guys will be on the outside of that right hand, which makes it useless to throw the left jab. The left jab? So it makes it very useless to throw the left jab. And of course, it makes it very hard for him to throw a left hook. If you would have to actually throw it kind of wide, or if you want to avoid the left hook altogether, then of course you just pivot onto this side and throw the right hook, throw the hook. Then of course you're not going to be there, right? So you guys saw how that thing would kind of work with an orthodox fighter and an orthodox fighter. And of course, like let's say I was a southpaw fighter, same thing. If I knew that his right hand wasn't going to be as powerful, then of course I would kind of take a bit of a risk to move towards this side. Of course, it's not very conventional for the right hand. In the gym, you're always taught that, you know, never move towards the power hand of the fighter with the opposite stance. But in this case, since I know that he's a converted orthodox fighter, and I know that his right hand might not be as powerful, of course, even if he throws that right hand, throw it, you know, I could either slip the punch and pivot onto this side and throw a left cross on my own. If his hand is slow enough, of course I could just pivot, throw the right hand, throw a left cross. Of course, the jab will be pointless to throw the jab. As you guys can see, it's going to be very pointless for him to throw the jab. And even if he throws the hook, once again, another pretty hard punch to land, especially if I'm on the outside of his right hand. You could always follow conventional wisdom as well. Just say it with his right cross as a converted stance. He's very good, and you're in the southpaw stance. Then of course you guys could first of all follow conventional wisdom, since you know that his lead hand is going to be very good because he's naturally a left hand dominant person. And of course you want to step onto this side, throw a jab. Of course, makes it difficult for him to throw the cross, which is a very useful weapon. Which is a very useful weapon for the orthodox fighter when going up against a southpaw fighter. And even from this position, if I want to like step through, I could end up in back of him, and it'd be pointless for him to throw the hook. So throw the hook, throw the hook. So I could step through him, be on the outside, make him kind of force him to turn, or once again, like throw the jab. I come in right here, pivot, step out, and once again, even if he throws the hook, I'm pretty much not in the range, so it'd be kind of pointless. So you guys kind of see how difficult it is to be fighting out of a converted stance if you guys are just a one-hand dominant person, right? So make sure that if you guys are standing in a converted stance, make sure that you're able to utilize all the punches in your arsenals, from the basic jab all the way to the rear uppercut. So if we were doing wrestling and Oscar was a right-hand dominant person, then of course he would actually be in a southpaw stance, according to like a bunch of striking sports. If he was participating in like wrestling, he would actually be in a good position, right? Because most of the time, if you guys know like basic knowledge about wrestling, the side of the body that they lead the movements with is their dominant hand. Now, let's say he walks into a boxing gym, Oscar would actually be standing in an orthodox position. But like we said, imagine if he started wrestling and he started off in the opposite stance, it'd be kind of difficult for him to adjust to this stance. So make sure that when you guys are actually kind of going from one martial art to another, especially like martial arts that teach you to lead with your dominant hand, make sure that when you guys are going to another martial art such as boxing, where your stance kind of changes, make sure that if you guys are going to be converted, make sure that you actually utilize every weapon that the stance that you're learning striking in offers. Cross, hook, lead uppercut. Make sure that you guys kind of keep that in mind. Make sure that when you guys are going from wrestling to boxing or from boxing to wrestling, make sure that you guys are able to utilize all the aspects or components that each sport has to offer. So pretty much that will be it. That's kind of more of my detailed breakdown of the converged stance. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time.